It didn't take long, did it? Less than a month after presenting his credentials to President Trump, Lord Peter Mandelson, His Britannic Majesty's ambassador to the United States, has found himself publicly disavowed by his own government. It's all stemmed from a controversial appearance on TV on ABC's This Week, where Mandelson, with his usual rhetorical flourish, outlined a position on Ukraine that was, to put it mildly, out of step with the official UK position. Mandelson's suggestion that President Zelensky should embrace Trump's peace plan and be the first to commit to a ceasefire sent shockwaves across Westminster. His words, advocating for a radical reset and urging Europe to back the US peace initiative, directly contradicted Sir Keir Starmer's efforts to bolster European unity in support of Ukraine. With Starmer hosting Zelensky at Lancaster House, flanked by European allies and underlining the commitment to military aid, Mandelson's call for Ukrainian concessions struck a discordant tone. The backlash was immediate and appropriate. Luke Pollard, the UK's Armed Forces Minister, wasted no time in distancing the government from Mandelson's stupid remarks, stating bluntly that's not government policy. James Cleverly, the former Foreign Secretary, took to social media to remind the ambassador of his job description. The UK ambassador to Washington isn't meant to communicate his own opinion, he's meant to communicate the UK's government's opinion. Ed Davey, the Liberal Democrat leader, echoed the confusion, demanding clarity on whether London was now aligning with Trump over Zelensky or was doing what Keir Starmer was doing. Mandelson's predicament was not just a case of diplomatic freelancing, it was the culmination of a hasty and arguably reckless rehabilitation of his relationship with Trump, and just weeks before, he'd been performing linguistic gymnastics on Fox News, attempting to recant his past criticism of the US president, and once calling Trump reckless and a bully, Mandelson now hailed him as a leader of fresh respect and one of the most consequential presidents of modern times, just when he was demonstrating that he really was a bully. And this dramatic reversal, intended to smooth over any tensions, ultimately backfired. Why? Because Mandelson isn't paying attention. Mandelson is too desperate to feather his own nest. Trump's allies, such as Chris Civita, still viewed Mandelson with suspicion, labelling him an abominable moron. And maybe that is right. Maybe the problem is he is some sort of abominable moron. But you know that's not what we pay for when we pay an ambassador. An ambassador is there to present the views of the government. For Mandelson, the debacle is all the more ironic, given his reputation as the master of spin. The Prince of Darkness, a figure famed for his political cunning, appears to have misread the room, both in Washington and in London. And his American debut, meant to establish him as a credible diplomatic bridge between Starmer and Trump, instead has exposed his fundamental misalignment with the UK government's policy priorities. His position is untenable, surely, with Starmer working to portray himself as Europe's de facto leader in Ukraine negotiations. Having an ambassador publicly advocating a Trump-brokered ceasefire was more than just an embarrassment. It was a direct challenge to the government's authority. Why do we have Mandelson? Why don't we have a proper ambassador with a proper background in diplomacy? Mandelson's misstep was not simply out of tone, it was one of substance. The UK's policy has been clear. Unwavering support for Ukraine, no concessions to Russia, and a hard diplomatic push to keep the US aligned with European objectives. And now there are even Republican Party bigwigs who are coming out and saying that Trump is a bully. Mandelson's rogue remarks undercut all the efforts which are being made by real individuals. Even as he attempted to clarify his comments, to backtrack, claiming that they'd been misinterpreted, the damage was done. He's demonstrated what many already suspected, that he's an unsuitable choice for the role of ambassador. His American charm offensive has flopped. His standing in Westminster is damaged. His position as ambassador is increasingly difficult to justify. And then, of course, there's a wider theatre of British political drama. Just as Mandelson's fiasco unfolded, Kwasi Kwarteng, perhaps looking for his next career move, began cropping up recently on GB News, while Darren Grimes announcing that he was off to do better things. He's just been sacked, I think. Leaves a vacant position, a vacant seat. I see a vacant seat in the corner, a crutch without an owner. Mandelson's self-inflicted wounds may well have inspired another round of political musical chairs. In the end, Mandelson's tenure, oh, Spectre, I fear you more than all the other ghosts that I have hitherto seen. But if your job is to do me well, lead on, Mandelson, lead on, and resign. In the end, Mandelson's tenure as ambassador has become a cautionary tale in hubris. Dickens could have written it. His fall from grace in just over a month has been merely over one television appearance. It was about misjudging the political landscape, overestimating his ability to navigate US-UK relations, and ultimately proving that even the most seasoned political operators can find themselves hoist with their own petard. It remains to be seen who will replace him. But one thing is certain: Westminster will not soon forget the brief, ignominious tenure of Lord Mandelson as the UK's man in Washington.